think we are live.
Right, folks, welcome. I see there's 5 of you. Welcome to the 5 of you to Mala Game Reserve. We will be welcoming more as more folks join the chat. We are live with a Kambula Pride. If you want to let your friends know, there's a whole bunch more folks. Yeah, if you want to let your friends know, we are currently live with the Kambula Pride. There's a young male walking over there. It's about all the action we've seen so far. Just arrived here. Mike found these lions this morning, and they haven't moved far from where they were. Just going to keep the camera on this lion walking for a moment, and then introduce you a little bit more formally. But for those of you guys who have been missing Mike Kirkman, he is back just before he goes on leave.
Welcome back and goodbye, everyone.
Yeah, so there we go. There's the rest of the pride right here. And then just so you can all see Mike before he goes on leave. There we go.
Man.
And then myself, Gareth. Right, so I'm going to get this set up. Please feel free to ask any questions. Excuse the wobbling for the start here. I'll try and do this quickly.
So, just to answer a couple of the quick questions that are coming through. So this is the Kambula Pride, and the males, the Gari males, are just to, as you can see anyway, but to the right of us, or right of the lions. And we know them as the Gari males, but they're also called the Birmingham males. But yeah, they are here. They're just lying under a bush in the shade, so not easy to see them.
Yeah, and we'll show you at some point.
And hello to Giraffe Girl and Sammy Jane. Quite a few of you. Oh, and thank you so much to Cynthia Hill.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia.
Definitely appreciated. A hello from Indonesia and a hello from California. So this Lion Pride, we'll see, we're hoping that they actually get up and about a little bit earlier today. It's not exactly cold here, but it is a pretty cool day. The lions, you can see, are all lying out in the sun and that, just trying to warm up a little bit. But we're right at Mala Mala's airstrip, so if you look for Mala Mala camp on Google Maps, then we not even a kilometer south of the camp. You'll see the airstrip. You might be able to make it out in the background here. But yeah, the lions have been walking all over the place. I don't even know how many kilometers they've covered in the last 2 days, but probably 20 kilometers. And for those of you that follow our YouTube channel, we've got some pretty exciting episodes coming up with things that they have been chasing around. But yeah, I think the goal of the adults at the moment seems to be to show the cubs their whole territory every 24 hours.
Welcome to Adam from India, Totally X, Steve McFall, Alejandro Sanchez, San Antonio, Tiger Woman 484 asking, are there any cubs? Well, not quite yet, but we do suspect that one of these Kambula lionesses is pregnant.
Now, I can't see her now, but one of the lionesses does have some, is very heavily pregnant. She hasn't had cubs yet. She's just about to within the next day or two. If you go on our YouTube channel, you'll see one of our more recent videos with her where you can quite clearly see how heavily pregnant she is. But way in the distance in the background you can see the crest of the hill there, almost exactly opposite us is where we saw her yesterday with an impala kill, and Gareth and I were following wild dog tracks when we actually found her, and we really suspect that the dogs had killed the impala and she stole it. So she's not moving with the pride at the moment, so it's why we think her birth is imminent.
Then a high giraffe girl, Michael, Carolina Leone, Rian Diapol, Robin, welcome back, Cham. It has been a while. We've been very busy this side, and it's been good though.
So if you look sort of just underneath the tree that they're sleeping on, more or less at the base of it, you can just see the youngest cub, or one of the three youngest cubs, moving around there. Unfortunately these cubs are a little bit older now, so they're in the scruffy stage. They're not the cute little cuddly things at the moment. And shame they're gonna, hopefully when the other lioness gives birth, they'll be the new cute kids in town. These little cubs won't get all the attention that they're used to.
Michael just asking if we can show the Gari males. Michael, we will. We're not going to do that right now. There seems to be a bit more action here with these lions, and at some point we will move over to them and give you a better look. Pam Hudson, welcome back. Kambula Pride, yes indeed. And Sticks and Stones asking, do you think the Kambula Pride will eventually split and form a breakaway pride?
We'll have to see. Some of the lionesses have been moving around separately. In the past there's 6 lionesses, but there'd be 4 that would go and do their own thing, and then 2 others that would move around separately. Now with the one presumably about to give birth, she's been more or less on her own, just exploring potential den sites and that. And if she does have cubs, it might be in their interest to stay a little bit separate from this big gang. But if anything, they should have, or we would have thought they might split with the lioness with the 4 youngest cubs. But that didn't happen. The thing is, in most areas it would make sense for a big part of, there's 20 of them, to split up But here there's just so many animals that they do seem to be able to find enough to eat, and that I've never seen this pride looking skinny and scrawny and battling for food. They always seem to be in pretty good shape. And for those of you that are patient, in a couple of days we'll put up a video of them eating an impala, and you can watch from start to finish that impala disappears in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So they do make a lot of kills, but unless you happen to be there watching it go down, you just wouldn't even know. One of our more recent videos, you can see where they killed a big adult buffalo, which is an 800 kilogram odd animal, a bit less than that, but say 3/4 ton animal, that they disappear in one night. The next morning there's just some bones and a couple of hyenas around. So they're certainly able to feed themselves, so there's no need to split into smaller groups at the moment.
And just James Schmulowitz asking, how long will she be separate from the pride after giving birth, and will there be completely no contact with the pride till she returns with cubs? James, I think that's very dependent on what the pride's movements are. If they go past where she might be denning those cubs, she may join up with them temporarily. But she'll also, if they walk too far away from the cubs, then she won't join them, because obviously she has to feed those cubs. So she'll hunt close by to the den site and then go back and forth to feed the cubs at a very young age.
Hello to Superbikes and to Johan Duplessis, who's asking, do lions need to drink water every day? So they don't necessarily need to, they will if they can. For these lions it's quite easy, because the Sand River runs right through the middle of their territory and there's a few water holes around, so they will drink when there is water close by. But I know the lions in Namibia and some of the other sort of desert areas do go a few days between drinks, but they're not completely independent of water. So that racket you can hear is a crowned plover that's giving the lions a hard time. It might have a nest here, and it's busy having a little heart attack that the lions are coming past.
Try and get them there, you can see them flying.
But you might wonder why something as small as these birds would be worried about the lions, because the lions are definitely not going to go and try and hunt them, but the predator of those birds is the smaller cat. So imagine seeing a giant version of something that gives you the creeps, like a 10-foot spider. All your alarm bells are going to start going off, especially when you see danger supersized.
And then a question here from Mr. WLD, Wild UAE 87. Is that a Kambula lioness, daughters of Majingalani brothers?
So as I understand, they're the daughters of the Manyaleti males. I stand to be corrected, but I'm not sure if they were called something else on a different property. But normally we'll name lions for the territories they live in here, rather than a sort of more whimsical name. But I'm not sure what the Manyaleti males were called elsewhere. I seem to remember it being the Majinga lions, but I want to say that was 5 or 6 years ago now, so it's been some time for my memory to become a bit hazy.
Lots of different lions in between, eh?
Yeah. Because yeah, as I remember correctly, the Manyeletu males were sort of replaced in this area by the Machaperi males, who were the first males to mate with these lionesses and have cubs with them, who in turn were replaced by the southern Avoca males, who in turn were replaced by these Gari males. So there was quite a lot of handover of this particular territory on the male side, and then the lionesses, this Kambula pride is a breakaway from the Marthley pride, or a breakaway from the breakaway Marthley pride. So they're kind of twice removed from the Marthley pride now, and they took over this territory from the Ifield pride, who now live in the south of Mala Mala. But it's more or less a pride of one, because it's just the one adult lioness and her daughter at the moment.
And Dizzy 1369 just commenting that this pride and Kruger sightings are what started my streaming safaris in March. That's nice to hear, Dizzy 1369, and nice to see that you're still with us and enjoying these live streams. We also enjoy all of your comments on our YouTube channel.
So Dizzy 1369 saying can see potential prey way down at the end of the airstrip. I can see a wildebeest. Oh no, actually I can see a herd of wildebeest.
Looks like they're grazing on tarmac there.
Yeah, it really does. New moon phase and that, so the nights will be particularly dark. If the lions were patient, which they're not, it would be a good idea for them just to really sit tight here in the grass and just wait for the impala. It would eventually filter out here. But
then Johan Duplessis asking, is it possible to fly into my case? But I think there's a nightly rate here. It just makes more sense in terms of our schedule of leaving very early in the morning for game drive, and also driving until into the evening. It just makes more sense that the drives are kind of split by the night. If you were to fly in for the day, you'd be driving at not the most ideal time of day.
And I think, nowadays with the world turned upside down, I think we could probably make a plan if need be. Sorry, Ratimal, I think I missed your question earlier up. I see you referring to cooperation between the males and females who runs a pride question. So the males, they control kind of a super territory, and then within that super territory are the individual prides of females that have their own territory. So like a way of thinking of it is if you were frying, say, 4 eggs in a pan, the pan being the male lion's territory, with the females being those 4 eggs. So the white of the egg is more or less where the overlap of territory is, and the yellow being the core, really defended territories. That is where they're going to be raising cubs and that. But yeah, the lions certainly do have a lot of overlap in pride territories, but yeah, within that super territory the males are controlling the super territory that has the prides within it. So the Gari males here, they control this, the Kambula pride and the Marthley pride. They seem to have almost abandoned the Nkuhuma pride to the northern Avoca males. But yeah, it's not that you have a male lion with his pride. It's a little bit more complicated than that. For things like the Lion King, I saw someone else brought up, it's a nice story, but it's not really the case. So I'm just seeing this lioness is just getting up and starting, I don't know if she was just looking at her sisters or if she actually saw something. And Dizzy 1369 asking, would that pride of two be welcomed into another pride? So no, not at all. The lionesses will never accept another lioness from a sort of a foreign pride into their group. Because this fight with the attacked the while she's recovered. She was actually seen this morning with her daughter not far from here.
Anybody commenting?
Sure. Sorry folks, we're not entirely sure if we're still live or not. The stream seems to have been broken up.
Looks like we're live again there.
Alright, sorry folks, I think... Okay, there, Dizzy 1369 says we are live. So it was just our screens had all gone blank on this side, so we weren't sure if we were live or not. So you can see some of the lions are slowly getting up and filtering off to the left there, but the males are to the right of us. It's just where they are, it's not easy to see them, and they're lying in quite deep shade, so it won't really come out too well on the screen. But I'm hoping that once the lionesses are moving around, that the males will come out to show them. Thanks Robin for letting us know we are still live as well. I'm not seeing the pregnant lioness here, so I'm assuming she's somewhere down in the river. But yeah, we really are hoping that she has her cubs somewhere here. A lot of these cubs, or the smallest ones anyway, were born right in front of Rattray camp, and then some of the other cubs were born in the river, more or less opposite where we are, the southern end of the Mala Mala airstrip. There's some quite dense thickets along the river there, so they'll have their cubs in those thickets, and that's plenty of food for the mother because she will be hunting on her own for a lot of the time. But it's also the core of the pride's territory, so they do spend a lot of time in the general area. Superbike's asking what is the most cubs they can give birth to at a time. I might be wrong, but I think 4 is the max. I can't remember ever seeing more than 4 cubs. But yeah, have you ever seen more than 4 cubs? No, so I think 4 cubs is kind of the limit. I've never known them to have more. The cheetah, they're the cats that seem to have the most cubs. And you hear every now and then of like a cheetah with 6 cubs and so on. Though with the cheetah, hardly any of their cubs make it. With the lions, they're a lot more successful. This pride of the cubs that they have managed to raise past 2 months, so once they're kind of up and following, they've only lost, I think, 1 cub now, one of these littlest ones. But before that, they had lost quite a few litters of cubs, mainly to other male lions. When the pride's territory was getting handed over from one set of males to another, unfortunately all the cubs they'd had with the previous males were killed off, and that, so it wasn't through sort of any negligence on the lioness's part. It was just the males not being able to hold on to their territories. I can assure you we are inside a vehicle. How the animals don't mind us at all in the vehicle. They've grown up with us around, but humans on foot.
Seems like more waking up now.
John, a few of you just commenting on the color and the light here, but you can see so clearly now why lions are the colors they are, because now in the winter they really need to blend in with this grass. The grass is very sparse at the moment and not long at all, so they can just kind of blend in with the grass in the background, and it's very difficult for the animals to pick them out, particularly after dark. But they do hunt a lot in the day at this time of the year, and then in the summer when the grass is long and lush and green and the vegetation is quite thick, it almost doesn't matter what color the animals are if they're hiding behind bush and so on. So
looks like they're starting to get a bit mobile now.
Yeah, it looks like they're all kind of waking up. I think what we'll do is head over to the males quickly, so just give us a moment to reposition the vehicle, and then we'll try and get a look at the males and see if they're going to wake up and follow the pride. But also we will be off the comments for a while we're moving the vehicle around, so just give us a moment.
Okay. There we have it.
hopefully it comes back and so I see Robin has messaged me that we've lost the signal there. We'll just... I think what we're going to do, if you can hear...
Yeah. Pride's on the move, yeah? Okay, there we go, we're back in signal. In fact, so it seems like we're live again. We drove over to the Gari males, which is literally 20 meters away from where we were parked, and there was no signal there. So it seems like we're live again. We're just gonna have to wait until the Gari males join us in the land of signal. So the rest of the pride are starting to walk off into the distance there. There's one lioness that's quite far ahead of the rest of the crowd, yeah? And it seems like the rest will follow suit, which is nice to see some active lions.
But can see it's wake up and bathroom break time. You're all very lucky you don't have smell-o-vision. But we're gonna, I think what we'll do is try and keep up with the sort of youngsters trailing here at the back, and just see on the off chance if they actually do anything exciting. It's nice to actually see the lions up and moving now while there's still some daylight.
It's a nice view of them. Mike just doing some directing there. Here they all come. This is quite a lovely sight, this, having a number of lions walking towards you from the safety of a vehicle.
Pieter Van Wyk, welcome back as well. And hello from North Carolina, and a Moroccan in Paris.
In fact, so if you have any friends that might want to see active lions as opposed to sleeping lions, maybe now's the time to take a screenshot and pass it on. Just never know what might happen in the situation, but it is lovely to see them moving.
But, just keep an eye on the lioness. You can see all the cubs are greeting her as they come past.
She's just left now.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, she was almost looking as if they potentially have seen something. You can see a lot of the youngsters are stopping and just watching what's going on up ahead. When Gareth and I were driving here, we did pass some impala, a small group of zebra and some giraffe. So there are quite a lot of animals in this general area. And Brand 131, they certainly can smell us, and they can definitely see and hear us talking and that right here by them. They just know that we're not a threat and we're not going to do anything to them. So there's no need for them to get overly concerned by us, or you can see they're completely disinterested in us, in fact.
This is one of the pleasures of working here, is that we have these animals that are disinterested in us, and it allows them to view their behavior as it would happen as though we weren't here, which is exactly what we want to do. And it's amazing to watch. We've time after time, they've surprised us, especially the leopards. They never cease to surprise us. You'll read one thing about them and then the next they're doing the opposite.
And Nadav has also just joined us.
Hey,
Welcome,
Nadav.
So Nadav, to catch you and everyone else up that's just joining us, this is the Kambula Pride. They've just woken up. We actually didn't even get a chance to check what time it was, but it is 4:20, I think, when they started to wake up. And more or less where that last cub is coming from is where the two Gari males are just still sleeping under a tree. We're hoping that they're going to get up and follow the rest of the pride. But we're just going to try and keep up with the pride. There's a bit of a valley they're going into. Hopefully the signal stays there. It's been a bit spotty this afternoon, but if not, we'll wait up at the top here with the males, and hopefully the lionesses do something dramatic, and something dramatic where there is cell phone signal.
Yeah. So Nadav, that valley that they headed towards, I don't know if I mentioned it or Mike or perhaps Dan or Pete, but if we had mentioned it, you'd remember it. We refer to it as the fridge because it gets really cold down there at night.
I think I might have brought it up with you in the day. Alright, so these are the last of the three younger lions. Just when the lions are hunting, obviously we try and give them as much opportunity as we can. We obviously want to see kills and so on. But the lionesses also leave the youngsters kind of at the back, so that they can do their thing without too much interference. Shame, you stepped on a thorn. But yeah, so we'll hang around with the cubs and also not interfere, and just see what happens. And welcome back to Mia Ferreira.
I'm going to need to just get a little bit wide for this girl. She looks like she might come close by.
Someone asking if we've seen the Torchwood male. So we Saw him 2 days ago, I think. But right in the top corner of the reserve, near the Kruger Park boundary. We will try and keep an eye on the signal. Obviously it's a bit tough as we are moving, but yeah, it might drop out for a second or two. If that's the case, we'll just try to get to the other side of the valley where the lions are going and wait for them to walk up towards us. Like I said, on the way here, more or less in the bottom of this valley, there was a herd of zebra. So a big pride like this ideally wants to catch something big to feed this many lions, and a zebra, looking at a 250 kilogram animal, so more than enough to feed all of them, or give all of them a good feed.
Mike just giving the lion right of way there.
Looks like we're all going to feed onto the road. Walk through these thickets. I can't actually see them, but they would be pretty visible if they did sit up. Right, and again folks, just to say, we're going to maybe struggle with the signal a little bit, so just be a bit patient. I'm going to try and stay on top of the hill and in the signal area as much as possible. Seems to be working for now.
Looks like they found a spot to lie down there. At least some of them. Here's some impalas alarm calling. Yeah, the impalas there. So
signal, huh?
Yeah, the signal is good for now. I don't know if any of you got audio of those impalas alarm calling in the distance. They've obviously seen perhaps one of the lionesses near the front of this procession here.
It's quite a cool shot.
Yeah, it is quite cool. Try and zoom in a bit. But that's good. I'm actually good on your side as well. So. There we have many lions. They are going in. We're going west right now, which is not ideal for us. Bless you. And for those of you that are on Facebook and you hear us answering questions, we are answering the questions on the YouTube channel. So if you are a little bit confused as to where or who is asking these questions, yeah, and you want to ask a question, then maybe get onto Later Sightings YouTube channel, and that's where we will be answering these questions and responding to these questions.
Like, so the lions have gone into the bush a little bit. You can just see how far they are from the road if we can stay parallel to them. Oh, look at that one up on the tree there.
Oh wow, that is very cool.
Let's see if we can get around there.
Yeah, I've got it in screen, which looks like it's a second. I'm trying to climb there now.
I don't know if you saw the lion seesaw video on latest sightings the other day, but that was these same lions on a seesaw not all that far from here. Very similar scenario.
Oh man.
Let's see if someone else will take their turn playing King of the Castle there. They're all just climbing the tree for the sake of it now. Actually, I almost don't know where to look. We've got these cubs all messing around on the tree, but it's so impressive watching the whole pride walking into the sun behind us.
See how the males are
Let's see.
quite as good at climbing, eh?
Kicking myself for not having bought a proper camera with instead of just the cell phone. So folks, we haven't been able to follow the comments so much. DS, these lions have grown up with us around, so you can see, like, we're standing here talking, driving, and they haven't even looked at us. Obviously we don't go out of our way to do anything that would get their attention or irritate them in one way or the other. But yeah, these lions, you can see, like I said, they just don't care about us. And also, a lion is not something you want to take liberties with and provoke in the first place. So if we did do anything stupid, the lions would institute corrective action pretty rapidly. So but we obviously never wanted to get to that point. You'll see we kind of keep the same distance, and you know, just that consistent behavior. They know what to expect from us, and we in turn know what to expect from them. But yeah, none of us would be working here in the bush if we didn't like animals or have some sort of affinity for them. So there's no, you know, we wouldn't want to do anything outrageous either.
So in Mike's words, we're avoiding corrective action. What corrective action? Oh man.
So I'm just gonna distract you from the lion for 1 minute. If you look in this tree,
What are you looking in this tree here?
That's a snake skin here.
Ah, Mike.
But look at the size of the snake skin as well. So you can only imagine the size of the snake that it came from.
Okay, there we go. Just hold on a second. Let's do this properly. So, hey guys, I'm still figuring out this gimbal, but there you can see quite clearly what Mike's talking about. And this is in a tamboti tree. And do you want to explain what's going on here, Mike?
So now this snake, so I'm obviously not going to get out of the car because the lions are just on the other side of it. But this snake skin, it's quite a big snake, so maybe even a mamba or a boomslang perhaps, one of our big tree snakes. It's shed its skin, so it's gone into the tree, found a little thorn or a twig, got it in the corner of its mouth and actually crawled out of its own skin. So that whole skin peels off like you'd peel a sock off. So that skin you're looking at is actually inside out. It looks like it's been here for a while, but it's in two pieces now. But that was a really big snake.
Yeah.
So it's hard to obviously for you to see the scale, but I want to say sort of 5 feet, maybe even 6 at a stretch. But yeah, I'm sure the snake is long gone.
You can see there's lots of pointy bits on this tree. It's a young tumbwiti for it to hook its skin on there.
Alright, so the lions have wandered off while we're chatting. I'm just going to try and catch up with them.
So I think there's one that's approaching Firebreak Campbell Road now. A number of them lying down.
So Mia asking what type of snake. I'm really guessing Mia, but I think it was either a boomslang or a black mamba, just purely from the size of it. We do get spitting cobras here, but they don't get quite that big. And then there are a couple of the other grass snakes, but they wouldn't really have been up in a tree.
So both of those snakes Mike mentioned are quite venomous, and the one is probably a little bit more dangerous than the other. Well, it is a little bit more dangerous than the other. The black mamba would be the one that's more dangerous than the boomslang.
But that's like asking, is it more dangerous to be hit by a truck or a bus?
Yeah.
Like both are not experiences you're going to enjoy, and the outcome is probably the same.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, where we are now is the boundary of Mala Mala. Hopefully the lions don't cross it, but if they do, what we're going to do is then just drive back along the way we came and hopefully come across the males.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try get quickly ahead of the lionesses. You'll get some pretty spectacular shots.
It looks like it's working.
And Giraffe Girl, yes, we think they are going into Londolozi, into the Sabi Sands.
Mike, I think the switching over to mobile data now.
Oh, okay. And Super Ton truck that's fully loaded. And Nadav asking, did the python we spotted recently shed in the end? So Nadav, we went to go and have a look and found a big drag mark and a lot of honey badger tracks. so we think the honey badger actually ate the python and dragged it back to his, well, the tracks ended in a termite mound into a burrow. But yeah, we weren't going to go and poke around or poke our heads into that hole to see. But yeah, the python came to a sticky end, unfortunately. I wish we had seen it. And thanks for that, DS. Okay, you can see, so sorry, I forget, someone asked the lions, are they still hunting? So yes, they've just moved a little bit now, and where they are is on a little bit of a rise, so they can see out across this whole valley, and they'll be looking for obviously any animals. But say they saw a herd of zebra, they might just watch it for a while, see if there's a little calf or foal, sorry, in the herd, or maybe one that's injured and limping, or one that's perhaps just strayed a little bit too far from the herd. So they'll be looking for sort of direct things like that, as well as maybe listening out. So if they heard say an orphan wildebeest calf bleating, looking for its mom, that would also lead them to a meal, or heard a leopard perhaps making a kill. so they do sit and just listen, and that often for us, if we don't know where any of the predators are, we had a little bit of rain the other day, so there's no tracks to follow or anything like that, then it is often a good idea just to sit quietly, listen for alarm calls and roaring and that sort of thing, and find the lions and other predators like that. So it is a very effective technique.
And for those of you that know Mike, would have noticed that he spoke about zebras first. And that's because of all the kills. How many kills do you think you've seen, Mike? Plenty.
Yeah, I might be pushing 100.
Yeah. But has yet to see a zebra kill, so it's obviously on his mind.
Zebra are immortal animals. How common is it for lions to wander off and get lost from the pride? So it does happen, and the lions are quite hard on one another actually. If one does get separated for whatever reason, it will roar and kind of be moving around looking for the rest of the pride, and often they can hear it roar but they just don't respond. Like, it will be quite funny, but the male lions were sleeping under a tree close to this pride when they all got up, and now those males are not going to know where the lionesses are because they walked off down the road and then took a sort of hard left. So if the males, they can follow their scent to some extent, but it does happen that the males sometimes lose the pride for days at a time, and sometimes the cubs also get lost. But fortunately, these cubs, they have all been lost a couple of times and have managed to regroup. Brian, has Mike ever seen lions kill a sable? So that I haven't seen, but that's a pretty tough ask. We do get sable here, and I haven't seen these lions, but the Fourways Pride I have seen eating sable. Actually, I watched one of these lionesses try and catch a sable at the bridge last year. I don't know what she was thinking, because it was bare open sand and the sable saw her from like 100 meters away, but she still ran and went for it. I got some of it on video, but it was quite far off. But yeah, that sable, I think he might still be running. Nadav saying to ask about the lion zebra kill. So I was actually with Nadav in a sighting the other day. If you go onto Malamala's YouTube channel, and I'm sure Nadav will share the link quickly, I was with him when we were filming, or I filmed the 2 young male lions and a clan of hyena. It's But yeah, it was quite impressive with these 2 young males. Actually managed to hold off a whole clan of hyena for 2 days. But yeah, it was quite nice to share that sighting with Nadav. Also, he had, you'll see his amazing spotlighting skills in that sighting. The rock steady hands there. And Linda M, this is the Kambula pride that we're with. So you can, I think the whole pride is here now. So it's, well, bar one of the lionesses. So there's 6 lionesses and there are 14 cubs, 7 males, 7 females. And quite far behind, maybe just shy of a mile now, is the 2 Gari males, the fathers of all these cubs. I'm kind of hoping they'll come and join us, but they don't seem to be in any hurry to wake up. Sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but Matiela, it's a pleasure, and I hope you and your sister are enjoying it, or I know you are. Jonathan, who would win, female lion or fully grown male leopard? I'm going to go with a lioness. I don't know. So a male leopard is about the same size as the youngster in the middle. Maybe I can ask Gareth to stick his finger in the camera there. But this young male is probably about as big as the biggest leopard, and then you can see the adult lioness next to him. So there's a significant size difference. And probably, you know, when we have seen these animals fighting, the lionesses really lay into one another, well, into the leopards and that. But the leopards do normally survive. And those fights are actually normally very quick things. They get in, handle each other, and then let go before anyone is too seriously injured, because a male leopard is an incredibly strong, powerful animal. So even though he might die, he could so seriously injure that lioness, she also doesn't survive in the long run. I couldn't tell you the name of the video, but I know on Mala Mala's YouTube channel there's a video from years ago of male leopard. I don't know what got into his head, but he was trying to sneak a meal from out under the Ifield Pride's noses, and those lionesses caught him and just meleeed him, but he did survive it in the end. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what the title of the video is to look it up.
And then when Mike says they meleeed him, he means that they took corrective action.
Well, did he do it again? Mita asking, are any of these lionesses pregnant? So Mita, none that are here, but one of the lionesses, the missing one, is pregnant, and we think she's, for all we know, she could be giving birth right now. So when Gareth and I saw her yesterday, her teats were quite full, and she normally, with the cats or a lot of animals, they only give birth, or sorry, their milk only comes down when they're just about to give birth, a few days before. So I've just seen one of the males in the back. He just walked over and lay down, but he's about 200 meters behind the pride. We won't be able to zoom in from here because you'll just see one darker pixel amongst the others. But yeah, hopefully they'll come over and join us in a minute. Sorry, Mita, so to get back to your question, so she's just, her teats are quite full of milk. She's not nursing yet, and we saw her quite close to the river. She had stolen an impala kill from some wild dogs. So we really hoping that we'll see some cubs soon. Normally when they have a den, we don't go and view the cubs until they're sort of 6 weeks or so old, just to give them as much of a chance as possible. We were quite fortunate with this pride. The last time they had cubs, they had them right in front of Rattray's camp. So you couldn't help but see the cubs. But yeah, we didn't mow the lawn in that part of the camp for a few weeks, I could tell you that.
Then Paul Oberholzer, just welcome. You're welcome. It's good to have you guys all join us on this live stream, viewing from Canada.
Carolina, yeah, I think I will, when we get back to camp, maybe, well, I'm going on leave, so I'll hand it over to Gareth, but it might be a good idea to recycle some of our older footage. That, I don't think it's archived, it's on YouTube, and if it's on the internet, it's there forever, so we'll just try and find the link perhaps, and just re-update it.
Then Mola Man asking what the location is of the sighting. We are currently on Mala Mala Game Reserve, which is next door to Kruger National Park.
How big is Mala Mala? So we 14,000 hectares.
See, Pete's just answered that one there.
Ah, Pete, do you work here too?
How are you, Pete? Pete's also currently on leave, but I see he's chiming in there. Thanks, Pete. 13,000 hectares.
Pete's also gone to go and give birth.
He's also pregnant.
Yeah, he's denning, but he's going to a top secret location. And Dizzy, so we really are in the process of setting up or trying to set up some sort of more permanent streaming. It's not easy, obviously, with the lockdown and that our whole world has collapsed. So it's quite tough trying to get anything, especially with a lot of the lockdown. There's no international mailing, so a lot of the electronic stuff and gear around it, we just can't really get access to at the moment.
Then just sort of not top right corner altogether, but if you see something moving where that cub is looking, that's one of the Gari males that's headed our way. You can just see he's moving there a bit now, walking towards us. I don't know if he'll come all the way here. Let's hope so. Yeah, and obviously all of your comments and all of you joining us on these live streams and commenting on our YouTube channel has helped us in trying to make this a more permanent feature going forward. So we really appreciate your support.
Into focus now a bit better. Linda M, how many males and females? So there's 7 male and 7 female cubs, and then 6 adult lionesses, and then 2 males. You can see this male is just being a bit awkward and lying just out of sight, really, or decent sight anyway. Mr. Wild UAE, sorry, to answer your other question, no, we don't know about the Nduna pride. It's not a pride that we're familiar with here. And the Salala lioness, we saw her and her cub this morning, sort of, I want to say 3 or 4 kilometers north of where we're sitting in the Manyaleti River. So she's all fine. At what age do females start having cubs? Jane Noyes. So most animals don't go through menopause like humans do. It's quite an unusual thing, in fact. So they'll breed up until the day they die, if the opportunity is there, and provided they sort of well fed enough and that to fall pregnant in the first place. It's a little bit complicated, but their sort of body fat content and that actually needs to reach a certain threshold, and provided they can meet that, then they'll still be able to breed. The lions have such a tough life anyway that it's really unusual that they get past 15 for the lionesses, though we did have one lioness here get to 19 years old, but that was more the exception than anything. But they'll also help to raise the cubs, maybe not so much directly, but they'll be participating in those hunts, and that just like any of the other lions in the pride. So they don't exactly share out equal portions at kills, but they're making those kills in the first place.
And there have been a few questions today about the Four Ways Pride. we haven't seen them in a while now. We've seen tracks in that area, which we suspect is them, but the Kambula Pride have been covering a lot of ground here in Malamala lately, and I don't know if they've just kind of been keeping them east of us.
So there was a question as well earlier about what these lions would do if they heard other lions roaring, and these lions are actually particularly aggressive. They go out of their way to chase the other lion prides out of the area, which sometimes can be a bit frustrating for us because we do have quite a number of lion prides around, and then we also see some young lions that will come in that are dispersing from other areas. But last week these lions came in, they chased 4 dispersing lions from the Camp Plains Pride, or Plains Camp Pride, sorry, and then chased them out, then went over, chased the 4 Ways Pride out, and then looped up to the north to chase the Nguhuma Pride back north, and then came back to the center of Malamala. But all within 24 hours, they'd turfed out a whole lot of other prides or groups of lions. But you can see with 20 of them, even though a lot are cubs, there's just no way any sensible lion pride is going to try and face off with them.
Then Mr. Wild UAE 87, just talking about that video of the Kambula lions killing the buffalo. It was took them about 4 days to actually make that kill, so we've started calling them the 4 Days Pride. But yeah, eventually I think I'd sat to them for the 2 days just prior to the kill, and Nick had sat to them for 4 days prior to the kill, and I'd been sitting with them for the entire day that day. Decided to leave, and literally half an hour after we left, Nick jumped on my vehicle. G-Nut managed to watch that whole kill, so good on him for staying, but yeah, it did take them some time.
And goodbye, KG. Glad you enjoyed it, or hope you did. Mita asking what the situation with poachers during the lockdown. So fortunately, it seems without any big international flights, a lot of the rhino poaching seems to have slowed right down because you can't get your horn from here to Asia, so there's no market at the moment. And we are far enough into the rest of the parks and reserves that meat poaching isn't a problem. But I do believe meat poaching is a huge problem in some areas, particularly where they butt up against sort of rural areas, or where people are living in these rural areas. And it is quite an important thing to understand, is that the wildlife in South Africa, or all over the world, in fact, is protected largely due to tourism. So with no tourism, there's no funding for any of the anti-poaching and protection of these areas, whether it's wildlife or even just natural heritage sites. So it's going to be really important to try support all of these things as much as possible in the future, particularly once the travel restrictions and that are lifted, to punt the South African game reserves a bit. If you are going to be going on holiday and don't want to be in a crowd, I'd suggest highly going to one of the private game reserves where you are going to be in a vehicle away from any big crowds, and that. So it is probably going to be the safest way to travel for quite some time. And on top of that, you get to spend your afternoons with lions. And welcome back, Mrs. Lapwing. Lisa Huffman, do we feel like we're part of the pride, and how do they acknowledge us? So they don't acknowledge us at all. But I also have a cat at home who also doesn't acknowledge me.
So you feel like part of the pride.
Yeah. So it's hard to tell. But yeah, it is quite important to us that we don't feel like part of the pride, because then you probably would become a bit maybe blasé about them and that. And it really is incredible when we're sitting in the vehicles like this, filming them, chatting away here. They really don't mind us or care about us at all. You can see they all fast asleep. But if they were to catch us out on foot, particularly after dark, very different story. And by giving them a pet name or something like that, you also take away some of that wildness, and that it's the same reason, your nicknames are for friends, but not for your boss. Or you don't want him to hear you using a nickname. Chandra asking, what happens when the last male lion in the pride dies? Do the adolescent males take over? So no, not really, or no. The males are normally actually replaced by incoming new males. So in this pride in front of us, there's 7 young males, 7 brothers, and probably in the next year or so, because they're all 2 years old now and a little bit more, they'll be pushed out of the pride sort of between 2 and 3 years old, and they'll be quite a strong coalition. And the male lions move around in what we call coalitions, and females move around in what we call prides. So the coalitions will move around as a group, be nomadic and chased around by other males for some time, and then eventually go and perhaps take over a territory from existing male lions. And speak of the devil, I can see the other males ambling over. We'll see if he gets a bit closer. But yeah, so then those males will go and take over the territory and prides that live in that territory from the existing males. Unfortunately, they normally kill off all the previous males' cubs to get the females ready to mate as soon as possible, and then they'll try and stay and be dominant over that pride until they in turn are replaced. If they're successful, they can expect to be dominant over the territory for sort of 5 or 6 years, which is time enough to raise 2, perhaps 3 sets of cubs if they are lucky, which is also why they kill the previous male's cubs off, because they don't want to waste their time raising someone else's cubs, because it takes 2 to 3 years to raise their own cubs. Mr. Wild UAE asking next stream of rhino or wild dogs. So we're not going to do one on rhino, but with the wild dogs we did one a while back, and they are amazing animals. We actually started with the wild dogs, one of the streams exactly where these lions were sleeping, and then we did a second one where the dogs went running off, and we really struggled to keep up with them, but they're not something that lends itself to easy following. I don't know if you were able to see that male lion just pass out and flop down there in the back. Dizzy 1369 saying the wild dog ride live stream was a wild ride.
Yeah.
Beep on the track beeps. Beats. What's a typical male lion lifespan? So I want to say sort of 12, 13 years. Sometimes they do get a bit older than that. Sadly, the male lions do tend to die quite violent deaths, so they don't always get as old as the lionesses in the wild. In zoos and that, where these animals are already looked after and there's vets and they're getting regular meals and not having to worry about outsiders, then they can live to 20, 25. It's not that unusual. But, out here in the wild, it is a very harsh environment, so they don't live that long. And Kimberly Lopez asking, did we see the male? So we saw them briefly, but they're just lying in the grass now again. And you're not wanting to be a movie star today. Mario Gaming asking, what lion is the best out of all of them?
Definitely a hunting lion.
Yeah, one that's awake.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Kambula Pride sometimes are my favorite lions, and sometimes I don't know. It can be very frustrating sometimes when they follow buffaloes for 4 days and don't do anything. And then you come and find them the next morning and they're all fat and happy, and whatever happened was while you weren't there. But yeah, my favorite pride, I would say at the moment, is the four-ways pride. Even though we don't see them that often, they really are proper wild lions that probably don't see people too much. But they're also kind of exclusively Mala lions as well. So when we do see them, we have no idea, and it's just nice to know that there are still some truly wild places left on Earth.
Superbike saying the lion that takes corrective action.
No, that would be your least favorite if you were being corrected. How long can a lion go without eating? So the longest I've known some lions here was about 2 weeks between meals. It was the Ifield Pride, and they actually even resorted to eating things like pangolins. I saw them try with the porcupine at the time. So it can sometimes be, well, I'd say 2 weeks is probably about it. But those lions were not in great shape at the end of those 2 weeks. This pride, they always seem to have had something. They never really seem to be struggling for food. So it's been a while since we had this huge drought here, and there were just lots of weak prey animals. So the lions have done incredibly well, as you can see with this big pride. So it's not something that we've been able to measure, fortunately, in the last few years. Busani, are all the females in the same pride related? So,
I think I'm supposed to be at a meeting now.
So the lionesses in the pride are always related females. So there'll be sisters like these ones, or mothers and adult daughters and aunts and nieces and so on. They won't tolerate a foreign lioness joining the pride. But then with the males, normally the young males, particularly if they're on their own when they do leave the pride or forced out of the pride, they might join up with other young males. It's uncommon, but it's not that unusual. But certainly for these two resident adult males, there's no way they would tolerate another male coming in. And the other thing to bear in mind is those young males, when they are chased out of the pride, they are very young, and they're quite vulnerable if they are on their own in particular. And on top of that, they've grown up in these big, very tight families. So now to be out on their own is just scary and lonely. So they're just a little bit more predisposed to joining up with other young males when they're young, but they wouldn't do it as an adult. So Mrs. Lapwing asking about the males here, the bee boys. We call them the Gari males, but they're actually at the moment, so if you can think of their territory sort of more centered on Mala Mala, to the north they've got the northern Avoca males, and to the south the southern Avoca males that are their sort of immediate neighbors. And then the male lions, the new male lions that have just taken over the Four Ways Pride, are to the east in the Kruger. And then I'm actually not sure too much on the west, but then they've also got the young males from the Torchwood Pride, that's sort of 3-ish now, and then there's 2 young males we're seeing in the south, the Six and Nkahuma males. And then there's the Camp Plains Pride with 2 young males, or dispersing youngsters anyway, there. So there's quite a bit of pressure from these young male lions. None of them are really big enough yet to be a serious danger to the youngsters, but to the Gari males. But yeah, give them another year or so, and it will be quite an issue. We're waiting to see if there are any showdowns between these lions. Obviously, from our point of view, we're wanting to see that happen, because we are trying to film and show a lot of the wildlife and the interactions that they do have. Sadly, though, that interaction will be quite a harsh one if they actually do come to blows. So we'll just, as much as you want to see it, it might be quite hard to watch. But yeah, over the next year or so, we're going to probably see more and more interaction between the Gari males and these new young males coming in. Most intelligent man, do you get ticks walking in the savannah? Yes, we get an awful amount of ticks. Mrs. Lapwing asking, has the sundowner situation in South Africa been lifted yet? So they did lift the alcohol ban for just more than a month, I think, and then they've reinstated it now. But yeah, it was a pretty stark choice between either we can all have drinks on the weekend or keep those hospital beds open. So our government has opted for the right thing to do and keep the hospital beds open for those that need them, not those that are accidentally there because they're drinking too much. How long has the Kruger National Park been running for? I want to say from 1898.
Yeah, I think it was officially 1926, but that was when it became was it Sabi Game Reserve then in 1926?
Yeah, the Sabi Game Reserve and the
it had already been-
Shengwetsi Reserve.
Yeah, it had already been running for quite some time before that. I think you are right. I think it was maybe 98. The start to the Kruger National Park was a bit stuttered with the wars that were going on here and the politics at the time.
James Schmolwitz asking, will the losers flee or be killed? So normally they run away if they can. It depends how that interaction took place and that, but normally if they can see the big males coming, they just get out of the way. They really don't want to get into a fight if they can help it. I think Nadav had a video on his channel, or this channel, sorry, just recently of some lions fighting, and you do actually see them come to blows there until a hippo comes and interrupts them. James asking, how often does a pride collapse? So it does happen from time to time. Obviously, there's no way it's scheduled or anything, but this pride in their own way have led to the collapse of one of our big prides, the Ifield pride that was dominant over Mala Mala for decades. They came in, they killed a lot of the lionesses and pushed the Ifield pride right down to the southern end of Mala Mala. So that pride is more or less on the brink of collapse because it's one old lioness that's raising one cub that's about a year old, and then at the same time these lions also broke away from another bigger pride, the Marthley. Well, they broke away from the breakaway Marthley pride. It's quite a long story, but one of their relative prides, if you will, they've been attacking and killing and driving out. So that pride is also down to one lioness and her daughter. So it does happen. The prides haven't quite collapsed yet, but they are teetering on the edge. And then Nadav has put up that video of the lions having that fight. Mohawk asking, have we seen the oldest cubs participating in the hunts yet? So yes, they're actually quite involved, all of them now. One of our more recent videos on Mala Mala's YouTube channel, 22 Lions Attack Buffalo, that we put up a few days ago, you'll see there we have a video of you'll actually see some of the cubs jumping onto this big buffalo bull's back. So they are starting to participate a lot more. They're still not particularly experienced. So something like a buffalo with the males holding it still, as well as lionesses, it's easier for the cubs to get in there and just learn how it's done. And we also put another video on our channel the other day, lion kills. And you'll see there I filmed some younger cubs from the Fourways Pride when they were learning how to hunt, where they've pinned a big kudu bull down and one of the cubs gets kicked in the chest. Fortunately, it's funny rather than horrendous. It could have gone the other way though. But yeah, he just needs to learn which end of a kudu to approach from when it has been caught. Thanks so much for that, Dan Rowley. It's very much appreciated. And there Dizzy saying it just came up in her recommended videos. Superbike saying the kudu took corrective action. And then Nadav has just put that video up of these lions killing that buffalo last week. It's been a pretty spectacular week because we've seen them kill that buffalo, and then in a couple of days we'll also be releasing another video with them and some buffalo, and then just after that we have a second one. I was busy editing now before we came out to see these lions at another kill. So they've got some pretty dramatic videos coming up on our channel of these lions and their kills, and you'll see sort of how involved or not involved the cubs are. And then Mohawk and Berry just pointing out a lot of the prides are kind of battling, and then we have prides like this that are just being really successful. Some of it just comes down to pure luck, but yeah, it's quite sad for us over time, because even though we are not part of the pride and we try to sort of stay detached in a way that we're not taking liberties with these animals and to give them the respect they deserve. But yeah, it is tough to watch the sort of decline and fall of some of the prides.
And thank you, Beep on the Track Beats. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, and sorry that we can't say that tongue twister. BP, I'm not sure if it's beep on the tracks or BP on the track.
I said it's
beats.
Beep on the tracks. Beep on the track beats.
I'm going to agree with you. But thank you very much for that. And the Nadav, that's crazy. They waited for me to leave. Oh, Nadav, you'll just have to come back then, won't you? It's a pity these males are just not playing along. And the light's not too great now. But yeah, so I don't want to move around to them because they're still lying with flat in this long grass. So it's just tough to see them. And Mr. Wild UAE just loving the bird call. So a lot of the birds are pretty vocal now because they do get killed a lot in the evening, so they just need to establish whose territory is where before it gets dark and then re-establish it first thing in the morning. So they need to be quite noisy. Good morning from the USA. The lion's doing some yoga. So it looks like they're all semi in the process of waking up. I think what we'll do again, like we did when they woke up the first time, is to just wait and hopefully the males actually get up and follow along, and we'll get a closer look at them. I'm a little bit hesitant to drive down the hill where they're going, because then I think we are going to definitely lose signal. So we'll stay with them and here where we have signal for as long as we can. John Clark, there are 7 young male lions in this pride. With luck, they'll all be able to survive to sort of sub-adulthood, if you will, and then leave the pride together as a really strong coalition of 7. Their fathers were actually part of a coalition of 5. Their fathers were a coalition of 5, and were quite a powerful force when they took over this area. There are just the 2 brothers left now. But yeah, they're doing pretty well considering.
Yes, just excuse us for a second while we put on our jackets.
You can see lots of yawning and stretching going on while they all wake up. You can see adults kind of take the lead, and then all these youngsters starting to stretch and yawn, presumably follow.
Okay, sorted. Thank you.
All right. It's a pleasure, James. Oh, it's also a lot easier for us when people do ask lots of questions, because that interaction and engagement is why we do these live safaris in the first place. So Cham asking if all 7 male cubs form a coalition, take over territory, will all of them mate or only the strongest? So it just depends on how much of a difference there is. Normally the brothers are actually very equal, and it's hard to say who is dominant over who. Sometimes one might just be a little bit more dominant, just a sort of stronger character, but in general they're all equal partners. And when it comes to mating, the male that realizes the female's ready to mate first is the one that mates. But also, without being too crude, the mating is pretty exhausting for lions, because it can take place over 2 or 3 days, and on average every 20 minutes, and particularly at night it can be sort of every 7 to 10 minutes. So the males are so exhausted they actually often swap out and one of their brothers takes over. So it's sometimes shared quite equally, and then other times the males are very aggressive defending the lioness they're mating with. And Barbara Russell, so I did answer it before, but no, we don't think the pride looks like they're going to split anytime soon. They have been pretty successful, and they're still catching enough that it's not an issue that there are so many of them. But we'll see. We would expect such a big pride to split at some point. And quite possibly when the lionesses all start to have their next sort of round of cubs, that would be the time we would think it's going to happen. So one of the lionesses has separated from the pride now, presumably to go and give birth. So it might make sense for her to raise her cubs separately. So the pride has all walked off, and now the males at least are up and looking towards them. We're just going to wait here and see if the males come towards us. And hopefully you'll get a good view of them.
There's the one male over there. And then the other one's quite difficult to see.
So I'm just going to try and move the vehicle a little bit so we can.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming in. Perfect. Okay.
He has to go and stand behind the one bush. Alright, we'll just wait here. I'm sure he'll come out in a second. Oh, and John Clark from Scotland. Thanks very much for that. Big yawns.
Yeah.
Alright, we're going to try and keep up with them. But like I say, we might lose signal here when they go down into this valley.
They're all on the road now.
Alright folks, if the signal does cut out, just give us a second. I'll just drive to the crest of the next hill where the front of the pride is.
Still looking good.
You can see he's just busy scent marking as he goes here. First prize in a perfect world is that he gives us a roar as well.
Looks like the signal's still good for now, eh?
So folks, while we're moving, it's quite difficult to drive and follow the comments. Just to try and go through some of the questions quickly. Nora asking when they're chasing all those other prides, were any hurt? Not that we're aware of. We didn't see any fighting, or didn't see it happen. We're trying to follow the lion's tracks to figure out what they had done overnight, and they had covered a tremendous amount of ground in the time they were chasing all these other lions around. Brenda Pelser asking, is that a growth on his left shoulder? I think it's... He's just smelling something. I think it's just the blonde fur. It's not really a growth there. And, presumably one of the lionesses is urinated there. That's what he was smelling. And that's properly called a phlegm and grimace. But basically he's exposing that urine to his palate and smelling there if she's ready to mate or not, or how far away she is from being able to mate, how healthy she is. All that information he'll pick up there. The camera can get it back. See if they crest that hill against the skyline.
Yeah, let's see, there's the rest of the pride up ahead there. It's really starting to lose light here, so it's probably a bit better just to focus on this guy for now.
Andreasaurus, yes, we are live. Just having a little break. And Flash asking, I wonder what would happen if someone dropped catnip there. It is an interesting question. I don't know what would happen. I've actually never tried it, but every now and then when we're following these lions, they do find some thing that they just seems to drive them wild, and they all go rolling around in it and love it and carry on, very similar to when I've seen domestic cats rolling in catnip. So maybe there is some sort of wild catnip equivalent out here. But every time they've done that and I've tried to look for whatever little herb it was, it's just been crashed into oblivion, so you can't actually identify it. Especially when there's a big pride of 20 like this, all rolling around on one little bush.
Here comes the second male.
So I'm just going to go back. We'll see the second male is on his way too. Presumably he wants to just catch up with his brother, so we might see them greeting one another. Hook and Barry asking, do we ever take rangers from other camps on drive? Yes, we do, so that they can see animals too. But the last person I took on drive was actually Nadav. He was a pleasure to take around and show all these animals too. Particularly pointing out where we've been doing all these live streams from over time.
One is impressive, but when you see them standing side by side like that, I guess it's twice as impressive.
you see, you gotta take your chances when you can. So these lions have actually been doing us a huge favor by walking where they are. It is right on our boundary, but it's not often that you get to stick to the road and be able to follow the lions like this as we go. Luckily Gareth has his new gimbal so that it's not shaking all over the place. You don't get seasick while you're trying to watch it. You can see this male is just catching up now with the back end of the pride.
The rest of them are just cresting the horizon there.
So Eve McCaffrey just asking how old they are. So the two males, one is born in December 2010 and the other one December 2011, according to our records. So just over the crest of this hill there's a little water hole. I suspect that's where the lions might be headed to. We'll just see, but what we might do is just try and loop around and wait for them to get to that water hole. See one of the young males just sharpening his claws here. And goodbye to Mia Ferreira, hope you enjoyed it.
In fact, we are at a time of night now where light is diminishing very quickly. So it won't be long before we say our goodbyes. We will carry on following them for a while, but when it gets to this time, it's nearly 6 o'clock and the sun is set over 20 minutes ago. Yeah, we're going to run out of light very soon now. It seems like they are maybe skipping the waterhole, Mark.
Yeah.
See, they're actually walking down the road over there. There's a nice sign. For those of you guys that have seen our wild dog video, when we first caught a glimpse of that pack with the pups, this is where we saw them.
So now that there's a little bit of a break in the traffic, I'm just going to try and get onto this road. I think the other male is still sleeping quite far behind us. So I'm just going to skip ahead. We'll keep an eye behind us if he does decide to join. I'm just going to try and get to that waterhole to see if some of the others are maybe going to go there, but looks like they might pass.
It does actually look like they're going there, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's It's just one or two, not the whole pride. And on the background there you can see this large outcrop. That's twice. Oh, there's quite a nice picture for some of you there. See, in this almost dark condition is when the marabou stalks are at their most photogenic.
I don't see Pete's baby
like
hanging
myself.
from there.
Yeah, I don't think you want this thing to bring your baby. For the Mala Mala rangers that are watching, you'll actually recognize this particular marabou stalk. It's the one with only 1 foot. You'll see if he lifts that leg up. There you go. It's the... I don't know why it's not... This particular bird we actually see in one of our very large leadwoods on the other side of the river. I don't know if he's just moved for a change of scenery or why, but it's kind of a similar shaped tree, just much smaller. Alright, let's see if we can get these lions at the waterhole, and then I think we'll have to say goodbyes. It is getting quite dark now.
Lying in the road in front of us there, there's the one. There they are. So it's obviously quite difficult to see them.
So Nadav, I think when you were here is when you were watching these lions at this very waterhole when they were all roaring, and I was at the bottom of the hill with the wild dogs at their den. You can see the reflections of these lions on the water easier than you can see the lions themselves at the moment. And folks, while you are watching the lions drinking, I think Gareth and I are going to say our goodbyes as well. It's always a pleasure to have you with us on these safaris, and on top of that you actually got to see lions moving about and active, and that, which makes a nice change, because most of the live streams they're fast asleep. But always spectacular to see.
Yeah, and always nice hearing from you. So yeah, thank you for all your support, and please continue to support us. Your comments are always appreciated on our YouTube page, and we always look forward to these live streams with you. And then see if I can get it right this time.
Not happening.
From Mike and I.
There we go.
You gotta get up higher. Good evening.
Quick change back. There's a male
there's a
coming.
lion.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. There you go.
Yes. Oh, and goodbye to Robin Sewell.